Hey everyone, welcome to the last part of the cowl. I know, we're almost done. So today I'm going to show you how to create this part. I'm calling this the edging. What we're going to do is we're going to do one row with the same hook we used for the body, and then we're going to switch back to our smaller hook that we used for the cuffs. And we're going to do, I'll tell you how this works. Basically, we work around the bottom edge, and I'm going to show you how to do that around the neckline. We do a slip stitch, and I'll zoom you in. That is the first row, and that is just worked along the edge with the larger hook. Now, what shows from that slip stitch row is just one loop, and it's right here. The next row that we're going to do is going to be a single crochet worked from the wrong side. So the wrong side of the fabric is facing us, and we're going to use the smaller hook for that, and we're going to do that in the other loop of the slip stitch so it won't show. This gives us the super clean edge instead of our pattern edge, which just looks rough, right? It doesn't look very finished. So we're going to do 2 rows, slip stitch with a large hook, then a single crochet, or actually here I think I did a double crochet. You can do a single or a double, and we're going to work that into one loop of the slip stitch, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. Once we're done with those, if you're doing the scallop, then it's just another round to go around that edge doing the scallop. If you're doing the ribbing, which is what I did here and what I'm going to do on the neckline, we start actually building our ribbing in a 90-degree angle to the previous 2 rows. So we work on it like this until we finish the entire round. So it is worked exactly in the same way that we did this, but this we just did in one strip and then built the rest of the sweater. In this case, we have to join it to our sweater as we work on the rows. But just so you understand the general construction, it'll all be much clearer when we start doing it, but the 2 rows are just worked around the edge, and then the ribbing is worked in 90 degrees angle to the rest of the sweater, basically. So let's get started. I'm going to take my larger hook, and I'm just going to join, I don't have any working yarn here, I'm just going to join some yarn. It doesn't really matter where you join it, just don't do it in the front. So preferably in the back, in the middle, or a little bit next to the middle. And just let me see which edge I want to use here. Let's do this. So I'm just going to join some yarn, and this is much like the beginning of the sweater after we finished. I'm just joining this yarn. The beginning of the sweater, when we did that first row on top of our cuffs, you want to take your time here and just make sure that you put your slip stitch under 2 strands. And what you want to pay attention to, so this is like, it can take some time. You want to take your time here and do this nice and as clean as possible. So what you want to pay attention is that the stitches are even, so that the distances are even, and it doesn't matter what is happening above our stitch. So all that is above our stitch is going to be hidden by the next row. What you want to make sure is that that bottom loop of your slip stitch, so this is like the bottom loop, right? This is the whole stitch, and then this is the bottom loop. You want that row to look nice and neat, and everything above it is going to be hidden. And also you want to make sure that the join areas, like our seam where we joined our halves, is nice and tight. So take your time. Again, you will kind of get a feel of your stitches and how they look and how they work as you do this. It's not a big deal if you have to frog a few stitches and go back. It happens to me all the time. You just want to make sure you're working cleanly. But again, it doesn't matter what's going on up here. This, you won't see that in the finished sweater. What matters is the row here below. So the body of the sweater and then that bottom loop of the slip stitch. That's all that matters. So you want the stitches to be even in size and kind of straight and not crooked. And just take your time. And check yourself every few rows or every few stitches, I mean, and see how things are looking. And if suddenly you have a stitch that is kind of more sticking up or side or something, then just go back. See, this is, to me, this is looking nice and neat. All these bumps at the top, that's exactly what we want to hide. That's exactly the purpose of these 2 rows that I'm going to show you. And after the next row, which can be a single crochet or a double, I'll show you kind of both options and you can decide. But after that, you will have a very nice, regular, standard edge where you can add to it any other edging that you like. So I'm going to do ribbing and scalloped edge, but this really gives you, again, a lot of freedom to make your own decisions based on your preferences. A lot of people prefer more delicate opening. See here I have kind of a big hole, so I'm actually going to try and see if I can make it a little bit more closed and see if I can just tighten it a little bit with my slip stitches. I'm now at the shoulder area, and again I want all of this to be nice and tight. So I'm just going to take my time, keep things also kind of tight, and try to give it a cleaner look. And every few stitches I stop and I look and I see and I check if things are looking good. So let's take a look. I know it's a little bit hard to see because the colors are similar, but I think you can tell this nice row of pretty stitches, and all these bumps here, they don't matter. So slowly we're going now to the front. Okay, so I'm going to continue taking my time. Sorry, that was off camera. I'm just doing the same thing. Taking my time, going around slowly. This row we're working on the right side. The next row we're going to turn our work and work on the wrong side, or the wrong side facing us. And that is going to be the satisfying row, which makes everything look very nice and clean. Okay, so every few stitches I stop and I look and I see if something needs adjusting. No, but this is looking very nice and straight. Sometimes you can see suddenly one stitch is like more wonky. Just go back and fix it. It happens to me all the time. So all of my tips are lesson learned from my mistakes. Again, here, this is our seam line, so I want to make sure this is nice and tight. It has like a good tension to it so that there's nothing is pulling on that join. That's another reason why I think these rows are necessary, that you have to finish the sweater. Because otherwise it may kind of lose its shape over time if you don't secure the top and the bottom of these joins. And also I just think it looks much better. I love the stitch that I used here for the body, or single crochet, double crochet. Love it, love it. Love the way that it looks, but it doesn't have a nice edge to it, at least not in my opinion. Maybe with a very like floofy yarn, it's a bit more forgiving, but like I don't think this is attractive. So that's why we're doing the edging. Here is the place where we did the decreases. So you see I have this like chupchik here, like this little bump. That's exactly what my slip stitches are going to hide. So let's stop, take a look. This is looking good. All the bumps will be hidden. Right now they're not, but they will be. So again, I have from my decrease, I have this little loop here. It's above my slip stitch. It's not going to show on my finished sweater. Of course, you can use the same stitch for any other garments. If you have a pattern, you finish it and you just, either you don't like the edge or you think this stitch is better, then I do this all the time, not like just with my own patterns, but I pick up tips on, you know, different stitches, different starting points, different ways to finish a sweater, and that's what I use. Like I use tips from one designer, one crocheter, and I use it on a pattern by a different one. Okay, this is really good with the slip stitches, you know, making sure where you have kind of more open stitches, just make sure everything is nice and tight. And I'm going to finish the row. I'm almost done actually. There's very little left, and I'll meet you at the end of this round. Okay, I'm done. I only had like a couple more stitches to go, and I'm just going to join it. Here's my first somewhat chubby stitch. I'm just going to join these two with a slip stitch, and that's it. And now I'm going to turn my work. So that's the first thing you want to make sure. You want to make sure you're working with the wrong side of the sweater facing you. And we're going to change to our smaller hook. And now what we're going to do, I hope you can see it with these colors, but it's actually good because it will also guide you if you're using maybe darker colors or if everything is the same tone. So what we're looking for are pretty neat slip stitches. That's what we want. And what we're going to do now is we're going to put a single crochet or a half double. You can choose. I like them both. We have our pretty, let's move this loop to the side. We have our pretty slip stitches. So this is the entire stitch right at the front of our sweater. And we're going to work our round into the front loop, the loop closer to us, the top loop, whatever you want to call it. I call it the top loop because it's at the top here, and then the bottom loop is what is going to show at the end. And I'll show you again. So this nice row here, you see these green ones here? These are those bottom loops, right? When I worked at it like this. These are those bottom loops. Here's the body of the sweater, and I'm putting my stitch into the top loop with the smaller hook size. If you use the larger hook size, it's just going to turn out kind of just, you know, a bit loose. So you can do a chain one Usually helps to put everything in order. And I'll do a few single crochets and then I'll do a few double crochets so you can see. So take your time and go into that top loop, the one closer to you from your slip stitch. Okay, I hope you can see that. Let's do this together. So here's my slip stitch. I'm going into the top loop. And you can see all that edges, everything is hidden behind this row. And what we get at the front of the sweater is this clean edge. So I'm going to do a few more rows with a single crochet. And then I'll do a few with a half double. And you can decide which look you want. I think I may have used, on all the other sweaters, I used a single crochet, but I think on this one I used a half double. Just because I don't like doing the same thing again and again. So again, this may take you some time to find that slip stitch and to go into that top loop, but this row is very visible, and it's exactly what makes the difference between something that looks finished and polished and something that just has a more of a rough look, which is totally cool if that's what you like. This is how our edge looks. Quite a difference between this and this. So here you can see this is with a single crochet, and then here with just a little bit more height is the double crochet. And let me show you here. So here I used a half double, and that's the row. This is the row of the bottom loop of slip stitches, the one we didn't go into, and then here is the half double crochet. Isn't that nice? I'm really, really loving this edge, and now I have to decide. I think I'll stay with a half double, so I'll just frog everything and start again. I'm going to do the half double, and I'll meet you at the join here. Again, make sure you switched to your smaller hook. You can adjust this. If you're starting to work and you feel like it's a bit too tight, you can go up a hook size. I wouldn't recommend going all the way back to the one you did the body, because I tried that usually because I forgot to switch to this to the smaller one, and it looked very loose. So the smaller hook size works really, really well for this, just keeping everything tight and clean and neat. So yeah, make sure you use that. But you can use, let's say you can use, if you're using similar hook sizes, you can try a 375 millimeter or 4 millimeter if you find that the one you used for the cuffs is just too tight. So try it and have fun with it, and I'll meet you at the end and I'll show you how to do the ribbing. Okay, I finished my entire round, and now I'm just going to slip stitch to my very first half double crochet. At this point, you want to make sure to try on the sweater and just make sure you didn't make this too tight, too small before we go on. So do that. And now we're going to add the ribbing. So as I said, the ribbing is going to go, we're going to do it kind of back and forth in a 90-degree angle to our row below. And I'm going to refer to this also in the written pattern as the base row. So in the written pattern, it's a base single crochet. Here it's a half double, but it doesn't matter for this section. So this I call my base row. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to chain, I think 5. You want to chain the number of stitches you plan on doing your ribbing plus 1, plus a turning chain. So I think I'm going to do 5, and then my ribbing is going to be 4 half double crochets. So exactly like we did in the cuffs, I'm going to go to the second chain from my hook. The one on my hook doesn't count. And then, sorry, just trying to hold everything. So this is the first one. This is the second one here. And that's where I'm going to go. I'm actually going to put my half double in the little bumps at the back. You would just want to turn your chain a little bit. So there's one bump just below your working yarn, and then into the next one I'm going to go with a half double. The first row might be just a little bit tricky because everything is just floating around. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now what is different about this is that we have to connect it to our base row. Now I like to do the connection in the inside loop, I'm going to call it, or like the back loop. So this would be the outer loop on this side, kind of facing us, and I like to connect my ribbing with a back loop because then I have this, I can see the stitch here. You can just connect it as usual to both loops and it'll look a little bit different. So again, you can try both ways and see which you prefer. I like the look of this, of like seeing my stitch here, but it's definitely your choice. You don't have to. So let me show you how we're doing this. Now, this again is one of those things, it really depends on your tension, your hook, your yarn, and just the size of stitches you're working with. So we are going to connect our ribbing every time to our base row with slip stitches. And I want this to be tight because I don't want the ribbing to stand. I want the ribbing to go more on the inside. So I'm actually going to skip the first stitch. This is the first stitch, and I'm going to go into the second one, and I'm going to do a slip stitch into the back loop. Just do a slip stitch. That's one. So this kind of attaches my ribbing to my sweater, but now I need to get a bit more height to be able to work the next row. So I'm going to do another slip stitch. That's 2 slip stitches. And because I want things to be pretty tight, I'm actually going to do a 3rd slip stitch and see how that works. So this is usually the section you might need to adjust depending on how tight you want the ribbing to be. I think I actually did most of the time at the bottom here. I also did 3 slip stitches. If you want it tighter, you might need to do another one. If you want it a bit looser, you can do 2 slip stitches. You can also alternate. So do 2, then 3. You'll get a feel for it after a few rows. But it's one of those things that I don't want to give you, an absolute number and then things don't come out right. So this depends on all kinds of factors. So I did 3 slip stitches. Now we're going to turn our work and continue with the ribbing. Now here you want to make sure that you are doing your half double crochets into the half double in the row below and not into the slip stitches. I usually count my stitches every row with ribbing because it's very easy to get it to be off by 1. So here I don't have to count much because it's just 4, but I count it all the time just to make sure I didn't miss anything or that I didn't put one accidentally in one of the slip stitches. And this is like the other places, a back loop only half double crochet. So at the end of my row, I'm going to chain 1, that's my turning chain, and do a back loop only half double crochet again, going back down. So for me it's only 4 stitches, and then we'll do the slip stitch join again so you can see how that works. And just here sometimes it's tricky to find that back loop. 4 stitches. And now we attach it to, again, to our base row. This is what I call this row. So let's take a closer look. This is my stitch. You could go into this one and do a slip stitch. So I'm going to skip this one and do 1 slip stitch here, 1 slip stitch here, and probably a 3rd one. So I'm going to do 3 after I skip the very first one. But you can go just regularly under the whole thing, but I'm going to go into the back loop only because I want that front loop to show. I like how it looks. You don't have to do this, I just like the look. So let's slip stitch. I'm going to skip the first stitch and go into the second one and do a slip stitch. Then I'm going to do another slip stitch. And here I can take a look and make decisions. I think 3 is going to work fine, but I reserve the right to change my mind. And I might have to alternate between 2 and 3 if it's too tight or too open. So, yarn over and back loop only, half double crochets. Continuing my ribbing. Here I am after a few rows, and I think this is looking good. I think the tension is good. So I'm just going to continue all the way around, and I'll meet you back here to join them, which is exactly like we did in the cuffs. Hey everyone, Editing Irit here, talking from the future, and I just wanted to say that you won't see me joining that ribbing because that footage somehow went missing, but it's exactly the same like we did in the cuffs and actually like we did in the front and back join. It's the same thing. That's how I like to join. It's a front loop, back loop, slip stitch. So you can refer to those videos. It's exactly the same way, and that's how we do the join. But since it didn't work for me, and I'll explain to you why in a second, I have an extra bonus option for you. So let me show you that. Hey everyone, so a bonus video. We are back here, and it's not some editing magic. I just frogged the neckline that I made. I already made 2 versions, and the first one was a very nice looking ribbed version, which was just too tight, and yeah, I couldn't put on the sweater, so that's no good. Then I just made a regular, like a simpler version with just a couple of rows of half double crochet. That one was fine, but I actually want to try again something that I did on my Fluffy Day sweater, and I really liked that. So I'm going to attempt to do that again, and I frogged everything, including the first 2 rows that are a really good base for a lot of edgings, but I want to try something different, and because I made this quite small, my neck opening, this version or this variation is looser. So hopefully this will work. I really like how it looked on the Fluffy Day sweater. So we'll see if I can make it work for this one as well. Yeah, as I said, I think it's always just worth taking the time, making adjustments and improvements until you get the look that you want. So I'm going to start this from the back. I don't want any kinds of joins or anything in the front. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up stitches. And this again is another strategy that will allow me to hide the edge of this stitch. I love this stitch, but the edge is not great. So I come up with different strategies. Now the important thing about picking up the stitches is to try and do this again quite carefully and evenly, and kind of check where you are as you go. And I really find that as you get on with it, you kind of get into a rhythm and you kind of know where to stick your hook in. So we're just gonna go for it. I want to try to be as close to the edge as possible. Let's zoom in so that I don't have too much extra fabric, but I also want it to look good. So I'm just going to first connect my yarn, and so we're just kind of picking up stitches. I'm going to do, I think, a single crochet row and see how that looks. So I just go under a loop that is close to the edge, grab my yarn and do a simple crochet. I haven't used this technique a lot, but it's very effective for adding more details. That's how I got to know it, from like adding rows on this shawl that I made, and you know, you can use it sometimes to cover maybe a not that polished transition between yarns. So I also don't know, maybe I need to go down a hook size. So this is how I do things, and I feel comfortable experimenting and kind of finding my groove. I'll do a few more rows and I'll show you how it's looking. I think in my fluffy day sweater, I only did, I think, one row, but you can also kind of build your turtleneck this way if you just keep on adding rows. Okay, so here we start with the decreases, so I have to be careful here, just make sure everything looks nice, and sometimes you just need to do a few stitches to see how things are looking. I have to look and see how it looks, and also the tension, if I need to go up or down a hook size. Okay, so this is not bad, and I think what I want to add, this is the join, so I kind of have to be a bit careful here. Needs to look pretty. What I want to add is maybe a row of half doubles on top. Obviously, you can do whatever you want, but this is another good strategy of covering that not so attractive edge. I don't know if I would use it for the bottom of the sweater, but the neckline can stand a little bit. I don't mind that. It's, you know, like a legitimate look that I think is good. It looks nice. So let's see. The decreases are a little bit more tricky to work into. Okay, this is not bad. I like this. I think I like this more. This is, I went with a 5mm hook. This is made with a 5.5, and the cuffs are made with a 3.5. So I didn't want it to be like super loose, so I went with a 5, but it's really all about experimenting. So it's just a kind of a different way of working this first row, and then with the other ones you just kind of crochet as you usually would on top of this stitch. Here you just have to kind of get into that state of mind that you're going kind of, you know, you're not working like this, but you're working like this. So kind of parallel to the neckline, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Okay, now we're at the back, and obviously you can keep on working like this. You can do also something loose and kind of create an entire turtleneck. which I think looks lovely. I just don't think it really fits this yarn or this sweater. So I think I'll just do like a couple of rows and then take a look. And try it on. You really should try it on. Make sure it fits over your head. With all due respect to all, you know, planning and making sure everything looks nice and clean and tight. Yeah, I totally messed it up. So we're only working kind of this row. It works kind of on just on this side. You don't go to the back. Just go here. So I'm back for my first stitch, and I'm just going to do a slip stitch, and I think I'll just do kind of a loose, try to keep it loose so it can fit over my head. And yeah, let's do like half double crochets. I like that stitch. So we can do that and see how it looks. You know, if you don't try, you won't know. But this is now, I have another, again, I have a base of a single crochet. This one is looser because I used a larger hook size. And it doesn't have that slip stitch row like I showed you before. So there's no like right or wrong. That other edge is definitely tighter, especially if you go down a hook size for that single crochet row. And this one has a more, it's not as tight. But it mostly has to do with the hook size. But my point is, you again have a row of single crochets and you can build on top of it any edging that you like. You can do scalloped edges or yeah, whatever. There are entire books dedicated to this topic. So let's do a few stitches. And again, the good thing about this is that it hides all the bumps and kind of, you know, not so clean edges of the main stitch that we used. So really keeping it loose. And soon I'll show you how it looks. So this is, you can see again, it's very clean. It's not as tight as this, but I like this look. I like also kind of more loose fitting knits. So I felt this was a really good look for that fluffy day sweater because it has kind of a looser fit. So I thought for the neckline this worked really well. You know, the point is not to follow a pattern to perfection. The point is to make a sweater that you love and that looks good on you and that you feel comfortable wearing, that you're proud to wear, and you know, is really one of a kind. And people will ask, hey, where'd you get that sweater? You can say, I made it. And hopefully they're good people and they won't tell you, oh, can see. it's handmade. Here's how it's looking. Ignore the loose edges. I think it always makes things look more frumpy than they are. I really like this, and I'm not even sure I want to do another row. This is nice and loose. I think my big head can fit through this. And then also I might adjust. You can see that it's a bit here. You can see there's a bit extra fabric here. So I don't know if that's ideal. Let's frog this second row. So I might have to just do a couple of decreases, like here in the back. In the front it's looking good, but here maybe I'll just need to do a few decreases, which is not an issue, probably here. But yeah, I like how it looks. I need to try it on. So this is another option, and as you can see, completely hides all the messed up stuff. Okay, so here's the neckline. So this is that single crochet, I don't even know how to call it. If you know the name for this top stitch, I don't know how to call it, then let us know below. And then another row of half double. And I think this is how I'm going to keep it. I think it really works. It's simple. The sweater has a lot going on just because of the color. So I don't think it needs even more detail. And, you know, I would consider doing the ribbed edge, but I messed that up. So I don't know how it's looking in the back. I might do just like a couple of decreases just to keep it tight. I don't think, yeah, it might be a bit loose. Don't know how bad that looks, so I have to check that, but probably just go back and do a couple of decreases. This takes absolutely no time at all to just go one time around, so I think I'll do that. And for the rest of the sweater, I don't know, I think I'll just wear it and see how I feel. I kind of got over myself with, you know, once I'm done, I'm done. If I feel like I can make an improvement on something that will make me like it more and wear it more, I'm going to do that. Should also probably try the sweater with jeans because I think that's a good combination for it. And yeah, it feels really nice. You know, this is acrylic yarn, but it feels really nice and very comfortable, which is not surprising because I tried it on a gazillion times and made it to fit me. Yeah, I just needed to remember that after the neck there is a head that is larger, and so you need to take that under consideration. Look, hopefully you can see this edge. Again, it's like another tool in your toolbox, and you can use this on pretty much every neckline if you like the look. I do. I think it's like simple, clean, and if you have something else going on in the sweater, this is a good, safe, clean neckline. Okie dokie, so I have put on my favorite pair of jeans, which you can't see, well, one of the two. It's very hard to find a good pair of jeans, right? And I am super happy with it. So this is the final decision. I finished it here with that combo that I showed you, that weird single crochet, like picking up stitches type of row, and then a half double just on top of it. And yeah, this gave me a more open neckline that just worked better than the ribbing. And in the back I did 3 decreases on kind of both sides, so more or less evenly distributed them on the back part, and could probably do maybe a couple more, but I don't think it's necessary. It doesn't stand out or anything. So yeah, super happy about it. It's really cute. It's kind of cozy. Somehow it also gives me a little bit of like vintage feels, like, I don't know, maybe 70s or 60s look to it. I don't know, really like it. Super comfortable. As for, you know, I talk a lot about the construction, but I have to say the yarn is really nice. This is cookie yarn from Hobie. It is 100% acrylic. It's made in India, and it's just a more like, kind of more of like a roving style, you know, 1-ply thread, and creates a really cool fabric, I have to say. So yeah, I'm done with both of my sweaters. I even sewed in all the edges, and I can't wait to see what you create using this construction. You can tag me on Instagram and use the hashtag half-and-half-sweater with what's it called, ampersand in the middle, and I would love to see what you create. I really hope this kind of gives you the courage and independence to try things. Just try them, see what you like, and feel comfortable changing up patterns. Not just this one, but any pattern that you attempt in the future. If there's something you don't like or it doesn't work for you, just change it. And yeah, that's it. I'm going out wearing my new sweater. Bye bye.